Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Science! It's fun for some, mind-boggling for others. We're going to mind-boggling today here on the MTOM podcast. I'm Paul Yeager. This is our installment this week. We are going to talk with Russell Taylor from Emory, Utah. He is going to join us from the middle of a mine that has impact on fields like this, both cornfields and the Rose Bowl. We're going to talk about the same product that can be used in both and how it can help growth. It's a natural product that works with nitrogen. We're going to talk about carbon, corn, keeping things in the soil health from a person who was recognized in 2023 as his role as the Certified Crop Advisor Conversationist of the Year award. He was recognized in 2023. We're going to talk about the climate of 2025 and what that means both with federal policy and also local policy from, say, Utah to Iowa to Tennessee. That is the discussion this week. A little note here, Taylor is the Vice President of Live Earth Products, and we're going to join him in the middle of where it all began on this installment of the MTOM podcast. Okay, now you're just flexing, Russell. That's a pretty nice view behind you there. I get it. Utah's got mountains. Tell me where you're at.
I'm at our mine here in Emory, Utah. We mine and manufacture humates. So this backdrop here is just a picture of the mine.
Humates, what's that?
So we mine a mineral deposit that is, think of it as an ancient forest floor. So 75 million years ago, what you see behind me was tropical forest like the Amazon. And through the thousands and thousands of years, that organic matter stacked up and it is now trapped underneath the sandstone layer you see behind me. The humic shale is used in different industries, dietary supplements, cosmetics, animal feeds, and fertilizers. So it's a nice agricultural input.
How long has that mine been operational?
So my father opened the mine in the early 80s. Kind of a sad story to begin with, but it resulted from a coal mine fire that my father was in. 27 people died in that fire, and my father decided to leave the coal mine and use his mining knowledge elsewhere. They were searching the desert out here looking for tar sands, oil shales, part of the 80s Superfund money. And they found this deposit here and they said, well, it's not what we're looking for. It might make a good fertilizer or something. And the group moved on. So my father decided to place a claim and took $50, went to the state and said, I'd like to mine this property. And actually, started from ground zero. I was 9 years old at the time.
And did he, yes, it sounded like he had a little bit of experience in mining, but does everybody just have that experience there when they're around mines and mountains? Okay.
No. No. He had some mining knowledge, but yeah, the uses of the product for humic shale were still a little bit nascent. And so developing the industry that we're into now, we sell into multiple industries: agriculture, dietary supplements, cosmetics, animal feeds, and fertilizers. So what created this was just a lot of hard work. Take $1, put it on the table, make two, and do that for the last 35 years. So, I got all kinds of fun stories about driving heavy equipment as a young kid, helping my father prepare the mining supplies. You can't make this stuff up. It's the real American dream.
And do you still have an active role in it?
Yeah. So I'm vice president of the company. I do a lot of outside sales. I'm also our lead agronomist, so I do a lot of in the field work with the farmers and growers and distributors. So yeah, actively involved. I get less day-to-day handling explosives, which is a huge downside. But it's a lot of fun what we do. We're helping to improve lives, both human nutrition and soil nutrition.
Help me out here because I don't quite get the line between a mine and an agronomist and why that's needed. You've said what products come out of that, so I can kind of draw the line, but I need you to do that for me, Russell.
Yeah, so let's connect the dots here. humates is the end result of decomposition. So when you put compost or manure or those kind of things on the ground through microbial degradation, you take those active organic matter and you turn them into stable organic matter, which ends up being humic acid, fulvic acid, and humin. Those components of your stable organic matter contribute to things like water conservation, nutrient retention, improving soil texture and structure. So by applying that with your fertilizers, farmers are able to improve their fields and improve their nutrient utilization. So it's kind of a way of speeding up the process. Instead of putting compost or manure down, you're putting something that is already degraded and fully ready to be able to contribute to that soil vitality.
Okay, I looked where Emory is. It's in the center of the state of Utah. So there's mines around you, but give me a little wider picture. What is in 20 to 100 miles all around you? What would I see if I was on the ground there?
Desert, rocks. Emory's a town of 200 people. There's actually signs on the interstate just over the hill here that say no services 110 miles. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. So if you kept on going about 2 hours to the southeast, you might find Moab. 2 hours to the north, you might find Salt Lake City. We're really just in the middle of nowhere. If you wanted to say go to McDonald's, hour drive there, an hour drive back. So there's just no services in town, no restaurants. You're in the middle of nowhere.
Which has its own discussion we could do. But
it's
how
quiet.
did you?
It's really quiet.
Quiet. There you go. And dark, right? Because you don't have a lot of that light pollution from all those houses and industries.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have one of those certified light pollution-free areas where you can come do night photographs out here near us in Goblin Valley. So come to Utah. We have beautiful nights to see the stars.
As an agronomist then, what are the farmers growing and how close are they to where you're at?
So we ship products internationally. So our products are used in Japan, Malaysia, South Africa, Poland. The neat thing about the products we mine is they contribute to your soil organic matter. So anywhere where you've got low soil organic matter, you can use these products. They're used by cannabis growers. They're used by turf growers. Live Earth Products has been a proud corporate partner with the Rose Bowl Stadium since 2006. So it's not just, one crop. There are plenty of people that are growing corn that use our humic acid, and there's definitely an application for it. But yeah, anything with roots is where our products will be used and used well.
You're going to have to help me on the definitions, because is your product considered then a natural product?
Yes. So certified organic, it's just old plant material. What these organic products are is just fully degraded, ancient plant material that has gone down to a very stable sequestered carbon, which they call humic and fulvic acid. So yes, natural, certified organic. And what's in there is actually three components. You have the organic acids, you have a little bit of occurring natural acidity, and then also the trace minerals. So a lot of times we're isolating the minerals for certain applications, and sometimes we're just selling the organic acids. Typically, those are used in nutrient stabilization and soil aggregate formation.
What's the supply like? I mean, is this one of those things? I mean, when you talk about all what it takes to make this product through the earth, we're talking thousands, millions of years, I'm guessing. How quickly is the product made?
So it's not made quickly. It takes a lot of time to make. And so, yeah, you're right that we're not making more right here, but there's more being made all over the United States and the world, in peat bogs and Everglades and the Amazons. So humic and fulvic acid is the end result of decomposition. So to give you a comparison, maybe 50 pounds of humate would equal about 1,500 pounds of compost or manure before the degradation process. So it takes a lot of material to do that. Over time, it does slowly accumulate in the soil. So you can build your own humic and fulvic acids by doing things like cover crop, those things that the USDA and RCS encourages you to do. But by applying the raw material like you see behind me, that's more of a fast forward button. Like, look, we really need to get this soil. We've been rough on the soil for a long time. We need to start doing some real reconditioning, and so that's why they use it.
You mentioned the places that you've shipped, and I'm thinking about I'm processing that. Yeah, turf, okay, but you did say corn producers. Are there certain areas
Yes.
that where they're growing corn that this works best?
So here's the interesting part. Now, when you're building up soil organic matter, that does a few things in the soil: store nutrients, store water, and those kind of things. When we extract the organic acids and then fully apply them to the corn, we actually get a biostimulant response where you're seeing something that the researchers are saying, hey, there's something here that's going on beyond the nutrition of the plant. And so we've done multiple studies, University of Tennessee and some research in Iowa, and we found that the humic acid will generally get about 10 more bushels of corn when we're applying that foliar on the plant. There's several research pieces out there, and some done by the USDA office there in Ames, Iowa. And there's some really good research showing that humic acids do help improve corn growth.
And it's a generalized area, because I'm thinking of, the area around Ames, the area where I'm sitting today, in the field behind me in northeast Iowa. That's a heavy area. I can tell you for certain what gets put on that field is a lot of hog manure. That is a different level of, and there's products done, and there's some cover crops going in here now in a couple of these spots. But does it work with manure? Does it work in place of manure or other products? I mean, is this replacing something or working with something?
It's working with something. And I'll give you an example. We recently did a trial with the University of Tennessee, and we were side dressing the corn. So this is very young corn, maybe V6, okay?
Yep.
And they were going out with 210 pounds of urea. Now, we backed that trial off to 180 pounds and then 150 pounds. So we wanted to find the optimal point where we were impacting nutrient utilization. With the 150 pounds, we added a urease inhibitor called Anvol, and we actually increased our yield from 179 bushels up into the low 90s. So we got a nice bushel gain. Then we added the humic acid with it, and we actually went up to 209 bushels of corn when the 210 pound of urea got 179. So you're probably thinking, hey, the math isn't mathing here. I added more fertilizer and I got less, bushels. What's going on? And what it is sometimes that nitrogen just doesn't have an opportunity to be used by the corn before it's lost, volatilized, or converted. So when you're using products like humic acid with your nitrogen, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get that plant to have a longer opportunity to use that nitrogen before it's lost, volatilized, or converted. And so by impacting your nutrient use efficiency, depending on your soil texture, it can impact the amount of nitrogen you do use. So in this trial, it was a very light, sandy soil and with very low CEC, which is your cation exchange capacity. And that sandy soil didn't hold the nitrogen. So they were giving them 210 pounds of urea, and the soil just couldn't hold it. It couldn't hold 180. When we got down to 150, it was actually helping stabilize it. So that's the trick, using these products to let that plant have a better opportunity to utilize the inputs such as nitrogen and water.
If it's not used, is it, forgive me, because science and me aren't always friends, so forgive me if I ask a lot of questions that you might have already enlightened us on. But is it stuck in the soil? I mean, you talk about loss, but I mean, is that something that it has to be planted to corn next year, or it just kind of hangs around until the next crop?
So what happens is there is a conversion process of nitrogen. So nitrogen or urea can be converted into ammonium and then go to the air as a gas through volatilization. So it just disappears through the heat. The other option is there are conversion processes that convert that urea into through microbial action into nitrates, which are leached away from the soil into the aquifer, and therefore no longer available to the plant. So the ideal situation is to keep the nitrogen in the root zone, and some of that nitrogen could be mineralized and actually attached to the carbons. But for the most part, we're trying to keep it in a stable form, retained in the root zone longer. So yeah, it's just not hidden from the plant. It just got taken away from the plant root zone through leaching in the water or conversion to a gas.
Well, and that's what I wanted to, you said leaching. So again, I'm going to point to what's behind me. There's some terraces. I mean, water quality, holding water on property is always a thing that's talked about of we need to not put stuff into waterways and eventually into rivers and streams and drinking water. How does this hold up in that discussion?
So the key to it is actually twofold. Your cation exchange capacity, so that's your CEC. CEC is the ability to hold positively charged ions, right? So you could make a list of things you're trying to attach in the soil: calcium, potassium, magnesium. Well, one of them is also ammonium. Ammonium is a positively charged nitrogen. And so by attaching to the nitrogen, that organic acid stabilizes that nitrogen, makes it last longer. So that's how you're doing it. You're trying to keep that nitrogen attached to the humic acid. What's interesting when you talk about soil health, in your soil classes in college, they talk about carbon to nitrogen ratio, and you want a carbon to nitrogen ratio of 20-1 for a healthy soil. And they get these really good ratios of how it works. Now, if you go to a farmer and say, okay, let's talk about what you do with your nitrogen, he'll tell you, oh, I put 200 units down, and he'll just detail it out. This is exactly what I did for my nitrogen. Mm-hmm. Okay, what'd you do for your carbon to help stabilize that nitrogen? Because there's a intrinsic relationship there, and it's always crickets. You're like, oh, I have to worry about my carbon, and that's it. That's the whole point. Is in the past, it was really easy to be inefficient with nitrogen, simply because it was so cheap. When urea, several years ago was $200 a ton, we could just spread it out wherever we wanted. You wanted more yield, just keep on throwing the urea at it. In 2022, when urea prices went to $1,200 a ton, all of a sudden, farmers were coming back to me and saying, Russ, tell me about that nutrient use efficiency thing again. Let's talk. Because, that input went up significantly, and it impacted, the farmers' budgets. So it was interesting to see how the role of conservation took the front seat when the prices of inputs like nitrogen went up so high.
Well, there was a group that was commenting on to me when I'd be in public about, well, these high fertilizer prices are actually going to help our water because there won't be as much use because it's so expensive. You're saying, yes, that's been true, but it's also helping. It sounds like the farmers that you've been talking to have been looking to make their use not just less, but efficient. Is that what you found?
Yeah, so the truth of it is 300 bushel corn is still going to use the same amount of nitrogen. And what you're trying to address is the nitrogen that is lost to the inefficiencies. Mm-hmm. So we're not trying to reduce the nitrogen used, use the same amount of nitrogen to get your yield, but we're trying to reduce those losses. So yeah, in the end, that's the goal. We want less nitrogen in the aquifer and more in the corn. And so by using these products, you're trying to impact that and improve it.
Did you find when you started that this product was, I won't necessarily sound like it's a savior, but it was going to be so helpful to a farmer? Did you have any idea when it was discovered that this could really make a difference?
What was funny is when we were doing this in the 80s, the whole concept of regenerative agriculture, and, it was just a foreign concept, it was kind of like being cool long before it was cool. But, being a thought leader on something two decades before it was becoming interesting. So, yeah, we were excited and ambitious, but, at the time, nitrogen was so cheap, it didn't really translate for farmers. But yeah, it just took time for it to take on. But now, talking about soil health and soil organic matter, it's not so taboo. It's not a bunch of hippies out there that are trying to save the earth, but actually, people are being very mindful of conservation and the goals of conservation.
Are you, since you talk about international and national, I mean, you've probably been dealing with farmers all across the country. Do you find certain regions that are more embracing what you're talking about quicker than others?
Yeah, sure. So California really seems to be embracing some of these ideas. You'll see regenerative agriculture talked about all the time. They're still defining it. So everybody wants it. They're not 100% sure what it is yet. But soil health is absolutely embraced. The closer you get to the coast on that side of the state. Um, some of the Midwest, they're starting to look at these ideas about first nitrates in the water. That's a growing issue, and I think has got some attention. And so building your soil organic matter is started to manifest in ways like no-till, strip till, those kind of things, where we're trying to maximize cover, minimize erosion, minimize nutrient loss, those kind of things. So it's slowly gaining momentum, and I'm excited to see it and be a part of it.
I had a conversation with a farmer in northern Minnesota not too long ago, and he talked about some of the practices that he'd been doing. As he retired, he wanted the people who were taking over his land, renting it, to continue some of the no-till and cover crop things that he's been doing, because it had taken so long for the soil to get to the point that it is. Is this concept that you're talking about like I mean, you're both natural products. I don't mean it in that sense, but the cover year after year, or the holding of the carbon year after year, takes time. Does your product take as much time to have as impact that the other way is? Or are they working independently, together, or apart? 3 questions there. Just pick any
So
of them.
it's together, and I'll try to I'll go through some quick math. Okay, so if you took an acre of soil 6 to 8 inches deep, so furrow depth, and you took all that soil in the acre and you plowed it up and you made a pile, you're going to get about 2 million pounds of soil. So if you wanted to change that soil organic matter 1%, 1% of 2 million pounds is going to be about 20,000 pounds of pure, stable organic matter. Now, the USDA NRCS says you've got to do 10-to-1 conversion. So every 10 pounds of active organic matter you put down, you're going to get 1 pound of stable carbon that ends up back in the soil. So quick math says that's about 200,000 pounds compost, manure, or stover per acre. You look at that and go, that's a lot of material. How do we do that? And you're not going to do that by applying our product. You're not going to do that by applying a compost and manure. It's going to be through a combination of multiple practices. So the first thing you do is going to reduce your tillage. Reduce your tillage reduces your oxidization of the organic matter. You're not destroying the organic matter that's already there. So that's step 1. Step 2 is going to always keep green roots growing in the soil, whether it's cover crop, whether it's the crop itself. Always keep green roots growing, because those roots are contributing organic matter through microbial growth, through mucilage, through roots that are living and dying, root exudate. All that contributes to soil organic matter. And the last step is addressing your inputs, trying to add organic matter that is anytime you can. So humates and humic acids, those things are all part of that process. You're not going to do that in 1 year. There's a program through the USDA, and it's called the 1% Challenge. Change your soil organic matter 1%. Now in the brochure, you're thinking, okay, change by 1%. That sounds easy. Well, they estimate if you embrace these ideas, it's going to take you about 3 to 8 years to change your soil organic matter, to get that 20,000 pounds of stable organic matter. Now, why would we do that? Why is the farmer saying, great, Russ, what's my math here? Well, let's say you're running dryland corn, and you change your soil organic matter 1%, and you're relying on the rain to water that crop. The 1% change in organic matter will conserve 30,000 more gallons of water per acre. Wow. That fills up swimming pools. That's a lot of water.
And in an environment where water is becoming, it seems, more scarce.
Right. And so conservation is key, conserving water. Now, what a lot of farmers don't realize is sometimes that water racing through your soil profile isn't nutrient void. It's carrying nutrients with it. So that's the reason, you're impacting nutrient use efficiency, is by keeping those nutrients in the root zone longer. Now, the other portion that I haven't mentioned really is the formation of your soil structure. So your soil colloid, it has 2 functions, all right? So one of them is being a host for soil microbes, and the second one is actually through capillary action. Those micropores in your soil will hold more water. So capillary action, if you put a straw into a glass of water, what you would see is that water kind of pulls up that straw a little bit. That's called capillary action. And so what happens is that water it's held in the soil, you could hold more, but by creating more of those capillaries. So that structure is, by creating that structure, you're creating more room for air, oxygen, water, roots. And that's where you're seeing these corn plants thrive and get more yield simply because you've improved that soil structure. So it's just not, you know, it's not a bug in the jug or a snake oil. These products have real, scientific merit in how they work.
And other people have thought that you have some merit. My understanding is you were a named Conservationist of the Year. Tell me about that award. Where did it come from?
Okay, so yeah, in 2023, I received the Certified Crop Advisor Conversationist of the Year award, and but it's an award. There's several groups that are involved in that. The NRCS, I don't have the name of all the groups involved. Maybe you can splash up on the screen somewhere and show people. But they fly out to DC. They give you a nice award. You get to meet all the higher ups both in Congress. Even I got to meet all four corners of the ag committees in Congress, both Senate and the House. So yeah, big deal. It's a pretty cool award. A lot of the work I did was for improving laws for farmers and biostimulants. So that's part of the work I did for my conservation and got recognized for it.
2023 was one year. 2025 is another in the city that you mentioned. Washington is a different climate now. Do you get the sense that there is still an appetite for conservation?
Absolutely. I'm excited about 2025. There's going to be some neat things going on. We're finally going to get a farm bill. I'm happy to see that there's energy to get that tackled. The one thing that is going to be included in the farm bill is, well, actually two that I'm excited about. The Plant Biostimulant Act is the one I'm most excited about. That is changing the laws, FIFRA, which is the Federal Insecticide and Fungicide and Rodenticide Act, to include products like plant biostimulants. Now, most farmers aren't aware of how FIFRA works, and I'm happy to explain it, but it's kind of an old, clunky law that it really doesn't foster innovation.
Oh, we love clunky. You better explain it now, Russell.
All right, so sure. So the way FIFRA works is it captured everything, and anything that accelerated or retarded an organism's growth was considered a pesticide. Now, a pesticide is for rodenticides and insecticides and herbicides and algicides, molluscicides, all of them. And I'll give you an example on the plant use. So let's use plants, for example. Everything is considered a pesticide if it accelerates or retards plant growth. So through exemption, they let things out, say, okay, you're not a pesticide. And so the exemptions are nutrients. Plant nutrients are exempted. Soil amendments are exempted. Microbial inoculants are exempted. There was one category called vitamin hormones for horticultural use that was exempted. The last one that was exempted was called nutritional chemicals. Now, the interesting thing about nutritional chemicals, it was never defined. So because there's no definition, it is not allowed for use for commerce. So now let's take our 5 exemptions and apply them to something. Let's say, for example, water. Water is neither a macronutrient nor a micronutrient. It's not a soil amendment. And you go through the list, water doesn't qualify as anything. When you apply it to the plant, it accelerates plant growth. Would water be a pesticide? And depending on the claims you make, the answer is yes. So that's the problem. So some of these newer products, let's say, for example, humic acids, like the product I manufacture, no, it really doesn't fit any one of those categories. When you apply it to the soil, yes, it's a soil amendment. When you apply it directly to the plant, it's not. So therefore, applying humic acid to a plant is a regulated act and considered a pesticide. That goes into other products such as kelp extracts and all these new and novel things. You say, oh, okay, well, what's wrong with kelp? Is it a kelp pesticide? No. But when you fully apply it to the plant, it doesn't fall in any exemption and therefore it qualifies as a pesticide. So what we're trying to do is streamline and update the pesticide laws so the farmers have better access to these tools.
Do you get concerned that the pesticide, that's a word that is going to be attacked. That is a word that is vital to those growing food all over the country, all over the world. So do you feel that this is going to be a harder fight? No,
I don't think so. We've done a lot of groundwork. I've had a lot a lot of meetings with the EPA. One thing I didn't mention earlier in the call, but probably should mention it now. There is an international association of humic acid manufacturers like myself called the Humic Product Trade Association. And I do represent the Humic Product Trade Association as president. So it founded in 2010 specifically for this reason, to help combat some of the problems facing our industry and to go change some of the laws that are unfairly regulating our products. So sometimes when I say we, I forget to tell people that, I do represent this industry as president. And I joke on the guy at the end of the pitchfork. I just don't know which end of the pitchfork I'm on. So, but it is fun. I do enjoy the work, going out to DC and lobbying on behalf of farmers and agronomists, because what I'm doing will improve the tools that farmers have available to them. It should improve pesticide law, and it should improve how we use these products. So I can't really see any downsides other than it's fostering innovation and giving opportunities for farmers to have more access and good information for these products.
One thing I want to bring up, though, is I'm thinking about the farmer who has thoughts of, I just don't want to do the cover crop or the natural thing that I'm not getting paid for, or I don't see the value in return to my fields right away. You could easily just respond, well, how could you afford, because the farmer will say, how can I afford to? And you would say, how could you afford not to take care of your soil? Is that are we beyond that initial back and forth about the importance of doing the work that you're doing?
I think so. There'll always be a dichotomy between leased ground and owned ground. If you own that ground, you're going to do like you said earlier, I'm going to hand this off to the next person, whether it's my grandchildren or the farmer that's buying it. They're going to appreciate the work that I put into building that soil organic matter. Some of those that are doing, leased operations, they're in it for that year, and they really don't want to try to build soil organic matter. So I don't see that changing. Mm-hmm. But what I do see is nutrient use efficiency is ubiquitous. We should all be concerned about the cost of nitrogen and how much we can get in the corn. And so I don't think that is going to get lost. There is efforts out there right now through the NRCS and EQIP programs. If you can actually get humic acids included in your program through nutrient management. I forget the exact code, but yeah, you can actually include this in your nutrient management and get paid to do it.
Did you get to go see the Rose Bowl? Maybe not necessarily the bowl game, but have you gone to see your work with your own eyes there in Pasadena?
Yeah, it's a tough gig. I have to go out every year, and there's a game going on in the background. And what even makes it even worse is, I'm a Utah fan, right? So go Utes.
Oh.
And so I've had the last couple of years had to go out there and watch them get their beat up by Penn and then also Ohio State. So the hats off to those guys. Good football, but it's kind of it's fun to go watch your team play. It's bad to watch them lose. It's the pageantry about the game, and being a corporate partner for all these years. It's kind of finally fun and excited to see my team go.
Russell, I appreciate your time. Thank you for the insight. Good day. Have a good day at the mines.
Thank you. Yeah, we're happy to be here at Live Earth Products, and happy to be invited on your show. Thank you.
If you have feedback for me, hit me up in an email, markettomarket@iowapbs.org. New episodes come out each and every Tuesday in video form or in audio form wherever you get your podcasts.